Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage. So it is another beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. The temperature is perfect, like mid 70s to 80s for late August. To me, that's perfect. Maybe want it to cool down a few degrees here with hunting season coming up in October, but oh well, it's nice out. So I pulled the race truck out a little bit. Why? Because, well, it moves. So we might as well work as close to the outside as we can. So I got the race truck kind of outside, got it jacked up a little bit. And as you can see, I have our cross support bar for underneath the cab here to replace that mount that we took out. I know a lot of people were concerned with the rigidity that this is, you know, I may have taken away by taking it out. But just remember, when we bolt the cab down, put this bar in, we will have a square still, which I know is not the strongest, but we can always gusset this thing if we want down the road. But the main thing is to get it in. So I can lay the bar, or at least the plan is, lay the bar on the mounts for the ladder bars, figure out where I want it, maybe tack it in place. I don't know if I can figure out a good way to secure it, we'll do that. Figure out where we want our drive shaft hoop. I will tack the drive shaft hoop in, pull the drive shaft, pull the bar out, weld the drive shaft hoop completely, then put our crossbar back in, try and, you know, tack it up or get it secured again. Put our drive shaft back in, make sure everything's good to go there, and then we'll weld that sucker up, or at least tack it a little more in if we decide to go that route. And then we will drop our mounts for the ladder bars, so that way we can weld 360 degrees around that sucker and be done with that. Then we'll probably do a little spray bomb job on the frame, just so nothing rusts too bad. The drive shaft hoop is something I picked up from some of their jegs. I can't remember which. It's from All Star, I believe is the name of the company. Just a cheap drive shaft hoop I picked up. I had no way to make this 180 degree bend. But this thing's about 5 inches inside to inside. So plenty of room for a drive shaft. Just enough for a U-joint, but it will probably sit about here. So once we have that all centered up, everything should be good to go. So that's kind of where we're going to start. I would like to, if that process doesn't take too awful long, get the exhaust figured out for this rear section of our selectable hood stack system. As you can see, I have some 4-inch pipe already cut into pie cuts, so we can get that. Exhaust up off the transmission cross member. Now, I remember seeing a couple comments, guys, saying, hey, I should probably hang the exhaust before I do this rear cross member. The thing with that is, like I've told you guys before, the exhaust is not going to be a permanent fixture. I had the idea, want to just kind of see my vision through, and then it'll probably end up coming off, to be honest. So I'm not going to let the exhaust dictate what I'm doing with the cross member. So I want to get that in first and then work on the exhaust. So that's kind of how I figured out what the game plan is there. Yeah, that's enough jibber jabbering. Let's get to installing this stuff. Let's get the welding and grinding. Well, guys, it's been a little while. Yeah, I just got working on that cross member and that drive shaft hoop, and then got messing looking at the exhaust and completely forgot about you guys. So anyhow, got all enthralled with that, but we do have progress. So as you can see, the cross members in and the drive shaft hoop all painted up, still drying, but not looking too shabby, that's for sure. I had to move all the lines and all that up. I just put a clamp there to hold them out of the way to keep them away from the heat while I was welding. But other than that, I did do a little bit different. I took a little bit different process than I had said previously. Basically, I got that cross member in, I got it all evened up, and I said, you know what? Why am I going to take this thing back out just to weld this drive shaft hoop in? I mean, it's an easy weld. I'll just do it in place. So that's what I did. I tacked that cross member in, and then I figured out where I want the drive shaft hoop, made that fit, tacked that in, pulled the drive shaft out, made sure that all worked. Then I welded everything solid, and then I worked on the exhaust. As you can probably tell, I did not finish the exhaust. I actually just about ran out of rod doing the cross member and all, something I completely overlooked. But I got all of our ply cuts taped up with another straight piece of tube or pipe. So it comes out over here, misses the transmission cross member by a little bit. I'm actually going to cut this pipe down here a little to back this up, just so we have a little more clearance there. Not that I think it would really be an issue with our solid motor mounts, but I just figured, well, why not, you know? So anyhow, as you can see, it is still a little floppy, and that is I would like to say it's by design. It was kind of by accident, but it's going to work. I put a piece of pipe on here, and it actually sits pretty close to sitting on this cross member. So what we're going to do is we'll get everything kind of lined up and hung in place when I get more rod, and just figure out where we want this. We'll tack everything up while it's in place, then pull it out and weld it solid. That way we miss this cross member, because I'm not going to do something with this cross member for what is probably going to be a temporary-ish exhaust setup. So we'll come over this cross member, and then we'll figure out how we're going to get to the muffler, whether we move that up or drop this back down. I don't know if we're going to have to or not. It's definitely going to be close. We'll probably tack a temporary exhaust hanger in this region here, just to make everything work and be copacetic for the time being. Also, as you can see, there's plenty of room on either side of our drive shaft. Up, we have a whole hell of a lot of room up here. And down below, it might look kind of tight, but it's not. Basically, it was just touching this when I had the drive shaft on the ground before I hooked it up to the rear axle. So there's plenty of room here. We're good to go there. I think this is going to work out phenomenally. And we are within our like 6 inches here for NHRA. We're close. Another thing I forgot to say while I was under the truck is we did bolt down the cab as well. We put our 2 bolts in for that, so that's secured again. I did clean up the areas we cut off, you know, for those brackets before. I cleaned them up with the grinder a little bit, just to paint them, just so we didn't have the rough edges. I think there's definitely more than enough weld and material here to support the cab, especially in its lightened state. And it's not going to get any heavier. If anything, it's just going to get lighter and lighter as we go forward. So I'm not worried about that. But yeah, our drive shaft hoop's looking good. I mean, everything is looking that it just kind of fits and was done purposefully. Not that it wasn't, but it looks the way it should, which is a plus. So guys, that kind of concludes all the frame modifications for now. Really the big thing still is the bed, but once we got the bed and get that back on here and get our sensors and data logging stuff in there, definitely got to check the line pressure on transmission, make sure everything is right there. But like John had said, there was nothing wrong with the transmission itself, so There's no reason to think that the valve body is not putting out the pressures it should be, but we definitely still have to check it just in case. But other than that, and you know, some little shit in the cab like a proper seat and bolting down the anteater and stuff, you know, little dumb shit like that, we're very close to getting this thing back on the track. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like it if you did. Subscribe to the channel. I'll check you guys on the next one. Get out in your garage. Get the wrenching on your truck.